Hi everyone, and welcome to the Disability Podcast with your hosts Eddie and
Damo.
On this episode, you're going to hear all about Damien's lived experience with a disability, how we first met, and a bit about how both of us got into support coordination. So thanks for listening to the podcast, and please enjoy. Damien, hey
Eddie.
Man, how are you?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Great. It's finally happening, the podcast.
It's been a while. We've been waiting for this moment for a while.
We've been talking about this for a while. There's a couple of dates that I locked in for it to happen, and one of them was a public holiday, and I was like super excited, and obviously made the mistake of getting excited and booking it all in, and then not realizing it was actually a day to chill out.
And then the other one was your family holiday you completely forgot about.
Yeah, scheduling on my calendar is definitely not my strongest point.
Me
Clearly.
either. But we're here.
We're here, man.
We made it.
We're here. Yeah, really excited today to sort of cover the first of what hopefully will be many episodes of us interviewing people and talking about the disability sector, talking about what the NDIS is really about. And I think when we watch the news, we only catch so much information, and often it's really just covering some basic sort of politically driven points maybe, or it's not really getting to the heart of what this space is doing to change and enhance people's lives.
I think the biggest problem with the whole NDIS universe is it's got such a lot of negative feedback, and that's most of the stuff that you see on the news. But for as much negativity, there's so much more positivity as well.
I've only been in this space now 2 years. My background's in mental health, working in that space, and these last 2 years I have seen some really tough stories, some really great stories, but I have seen some people's lives that have been, the projection of positivity has been just tenfold because of people that have fueled this NDIS to the betterment of our community.
Absolutely.
Been awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Mate, shall we talk about how we met, and then maybe hear about you and your lived experience with a disability, and then go from there?
Sure, let's get into it.
So, what was it? We probably met now 3 and a bit years ago?
I think it was probably just before COVID really took off.
Yeah. We had, I reckon, a big expo in Adelaide, real quick. Business cards exchanged. Hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah, I was doing it the cheap way and didn't pay for a stall at the expo, and just did it the cheaper way and walked around handing around business cards. And I still think it's the best way to do it.
Handing out business cards and stealing everyone's pens.
Yes, the pens were the best. My wife actually loves them.
So good. Yes, we met there, and then I think one thing that struck me pretty early on, we started working together. Obviously, I worked for Flex Care, Allied Health, and you were doing support coordination at the time. And one thing that struck me was just working with you with participants. I immediately felt that you, and this is a great credit to your work, is just that you trusted me in the process of working together, mutual partnership for a client. And just the way you handled things, man, I really appreciated it, because I know it can be hard when there's so many moving parts for a client or a coordinator to juggle, to sort of trust that everyone's doing their bit. And I really felt that, man. It was awesome to work with you. And then
Thank you.
Not long after that, found out you're a Marvel fan. So then
The rest is history, huh?
Well, a quick call about a service agreement and when services were starting and what our goals were for services quickly turned into
An hour-long Marvel chat.
Mate, have you seen the new Doctor Strange?
Yeah. And that's it.
And that's it. And I guess the friendship sort of kicked off from there. And
Definitely.
It's been really cool, man. I've really appreciated learning from you, and I guess from there we sort of did our first, not podcast, but our first public speaking at a really cool networking event that Flex Care's a partner in doing, and it was I think really and got the industry enthusiastic.
Yes.
And excited.
There was plenty of positive feedback, wasn't
There
there?
was lots of banter and laughs.
Yeah.
I think everyone appreciated it.
Definitely.
So well done again, man.
Thank you. Just to add to, how we met, and, you talking about trust, in this industry, I think trusting each other goes a long way, whether you're a client or a provider. And when I first approached you at the expo, and we had a really good chat for 10 minutes, hit it off straight away. And I think that goes a long way to how you approach people. You know, you come across as a pretty trusting person.
Oh, thank you.
You know, you didn't charge me $10 for a pen.
Not the first one.
No,
second one,
second
$10.
one. Yes, right. You know, so it all started back then.
Yeah.
Where you learn to, you know, I walked away from there going, yeah, he's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I think, oh gosh, isn't that just an important point, even just around this space? You know,
Yep.
it's people get a plan. They can choose their providers. Clients can choose what they need, and I'm sure you've got many stories to share on this journey as well about that. And
Oh, there is, and there's also a lot of people out there that don't know they can choose.
and I think that sort of comes to what this podcast hopefully will be about as well, is people learning what they can do, what's out there, what providers are able to offer, and yeah, trust is key, and it has to be built, and we have to keep doing better, right?
Absolutely,
In this space.
definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, mate, do you want to share a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you get up to?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess I'm 45 years old. I'm married, have 3 kids, and obviously you can't tell from this podcast, but I'm also in a wheelchair,
Yep.
which you already know that. Yep. I have a disability called dystrophic dysplasia, which is a form of dwarfism. So I'm pretty much just a short guy in a wheelchair that can't walk.
Yep.
That's how I've labelled it. And, you know, my brain works, my mouth works, and I'm happy to have that usage.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was born to a registered nurse, and my dad was a farmer out in the country on the York Peninsula.
Country boy.
Yep, back in the 70s, so it was a long time ago. I was the first of my kind born in this country that they had medical records on. They had no idea what was wrong with me. They had no idea how to treat me. They had no idea about my life expectancy. Fast forward a year, I ended up in foster care in Adelaide because I needed to be around, you know, medical providers constantly. And that was, you know, a big burden for my biological parents to undertake. And, you know, you fast forward to now, and I still see my biological parents. I have biological siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, you know, so there's just so much I could unpack, you know, during this podcast about my life, but that's just it in a nutshell. But I'm sure we'll, you know, get into it as we go through.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to just come out as we have these different important talking points as we have guests, and I look forward to that. And I guess even just on a point of curiosity for me, the medical industry, like the medical space in Australia, was there just not enough data around the disability that you have?
I was the first of my kind born in Australia, so they had to basically contact, you know, doctors overseas to find out what the hell was wrong with me.
This is all before Zoom.
Yeah.
So people are faxing probably.
They were sending courier pigeons.
Courier pigeons. There's some strong pigeons that are heading out across the Atlantic,
Yes,
eh?
a little bit before your time.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Wow. So you grew up in Adelaide?
Yep. We used to live down at Aldinga Beach.
Yeah.
I lived with my foster mum. She's passed away now, but she did fostering for 45 years. And in that 45 years, I think she fostered over 600 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was she a bit of a saint in the sense of just what she did was just like, wow, very special person?
More of a saint than half the labelled saints out there.
True. Wow.
Yeah, and I, you know, I love my biological parents.
Yes.
But I credit my foster mum for everything that I am today.
Yeah. Wow. So, what side of Adelaide did you grow up in?
Well, at first we were down at Aldinga Beach.
Yep.
And loved that place.
Yep.
And then we moved to Morphett Vale, so I could attend Marion High School.
Yep.
So I did mainstream school all the way through. And then we stayed at Morphett Vale till I was 24, and then I moved out to Salisbury to move in with my future wife.
Hey, there's a bit in there to cover, and
There's a lot.
even attending mainstream school and seeing how mainstream school is probably very different for your kids today compared to what it was for you. Was the school, I guess maybe, were they prepared for any of your specific needs, or was the space was there a lot of ignorance and people just not being aware of maybe information that was a lot more mainstream today? And
Luckily for me, Marion High School, which is actually no longer there, they already had some people in wheelchairs that attended that school.
Yep.
So it was pretty much a formality. They took me in really easily.
Yep.
I had a SSO with me for all my lessons, because I can't write with a pen, and back then computers weren't so, easy to get hold of.
Yeah, I look at you today, you're a wizard on your iPod, you've got it all set up on the mount, and you just, you sending memes and gifs left, right, and centre.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think I was born, at the right time where, I appreciated the generation of no technology, but I also understand modern technology as well. So, but Marion was really good. I love going to that school.
Great.
Obviously I had my issues like everyone that goes to school. A couple of bullying issues, but they were sorted out pretty quick. And I just did school, graduated year 12, and moved on.
Yeah, I remember we were chatting another time, and you had a few really good mates growing up at school, and that sort of was a big part in shaping you, I guess, having, I hate to even use the word normal, but feeling like you had a pretty normal-ish experience at school, and in that developing stage, you had some good peeps around you.
I did, throughout my entire life, I'd never really considered myself as disabled. I guess it's weird when you look at me because, I clearly am. But I guess because I went through mainstream primary school, mainstream high school, all my friends were always able-bodied. I never really considered myself to be any different. Mm-hmm. My first disabled best friend is now my wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. So really just schooling was all in all pretty good.
It was normal.
Yeah.
I was how I look at as normal.
And I think there's a gem in there for me when I listen to that, and I go, people, and this is I think is what the NDIS so much is about. It's like people with a disability want to have a normal life, have a normal experience. They want to go to the beach. Then we might need to have some accessibility there for people to get out to the water.
Yep.
Or people might want to go to a party or meet a partner. And I think there's been a history where it was just like, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I think the NDIS has really brought that these people and human rights for all Australians are super important. And I think your experience speaks credit because potentially in your time, that probably wasn't as common for people with a disability.
No, definitely not. And I think for me as well, I went night clubbing every week. I was at the pubs.
Yeah.
Drinking, night clubbing, doing all those things. And, it wasn't me and another, and a whole bunch of disabled people having a daily outing.
Yeah.
I was out with my friends, just having fun.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of disabled people out there that would love to do that.
Yeah.
Not as a day group, day options.
Yes.
They actually want to go out.
Yeah.
Without being labelled the special group.
Yeah, and that's huge, and I think that's really important. Like those stories and how they shape us as people, right? Like those important moments we have with friends and going out and then doing the things that we're passionate about. And man, that's really cool.
Yeah, they don't always want to be a part of those groups. They want to be an individual and
100%.
Go out with their friends or their sisters and brothers and just go clubbing and have fun.
Do things.
Do the normal things.
Love that.
Quote unquote normal.
Yeah. A special thanks today to our sponsor, FlexCare. FlexCare is a South Australian owned and operated allied health service provider, offering physiotherapy, exercise physiology, occupational therapy, and podiatry across SA. If you are in need of an allied health service to achieve your NDIS goal, get in touch with them today. FlexCare is an NDIS registered service provider. Tell us about your partner and this. I'm intrigued. We've talked a little bit about your partner, but I just want to know as well just the journey and how you guys met and give us the goss.
Yeah, that's a journey in itself.
Let's go there. And when did you decide you even wanted a partner?
I didn't.
You didn't?
Just happened.
Okay.
You know,
Tell us.
You should know how it is.
I do know how it is.
You don't go out actually specifically looking for it.
No. Sometimes it does just happen.
Yeah, no. You know, as we were just talking about, you know, individuality and, you know, I was never really involved in, you know, day options and, you know, group disability things.
Yeah.
The only thing I was involved with was wheelchair sports.
Yep.
Where, you know, we'd play wheelchair hockey, like in our electric chairs, play a version of soccer, which was with a big air balloon, and we'd hit it with our heads and stuff. You know, it was great fun. And I actually met my future wife there. You
Awesome.
know, we'd be on separate teams, and, you know, I met her, and I guess...
So at first she was your competitor.
Oh, she hated me.
And you just were like, I just got to beat him.
No, she actually hated me.
Because you were good, I'm guessing? Or did you play a bit dirty?
No, because, well, if you ask her, because I was an arrogant
Okay.
because I was good.
So you met on the field?
Yep, on a
Awesome.
basketball court, yep. And yeah, she just, I don't know, because like I'd never really associated myself with many disabled people, you know, apart from the ones that my foster mum had taken in over the years. And I met her, and she was just normal. She just seemed normal to me. You know, she could walk, you know, she was in a manual chair, and then every now and then, you know, she'd get out of her chair and, you know, walk over and do something, and that spun me out the first time I saw that, and I'm like, wow, you know, you're pretty normal.
Yeah.
And for me, that was, you know, because I'd always had normal friends.
Yeah.
You know, I guess it sort of, you know, dragged me in a bit. And then we never really, you know, we knew each other and spoke to each other, and as I said, she hated me because I was an arrogant
Well, your team was winning.
Not all the time.
Okay.
But I kind of knew that that's what she thought of me, so I played on it a little bit more as well. I'm like, if you think I'm arrogant, then I'm just going to be arrogant.
Okay.
You know, play on it and, you know, see how it turns out.
Yeah.
And then in May of 2003, one of her best friends, which was another guy that we played with, he passed away. And, you know, she was pretty shattered, and our whole relationship started, quite funny really, with a, "Are you okay?" I'm sitting there at home one night and sent her a message on good old MSN Messenger, and it was just a, "Are you okay?" You know, we just started talking from that, and she soon learned I wasn't that much of an asshole.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, you know, we just, I guess, right time, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, for me to message her, and yeah, it was really good.
Not a bad way to start a relationship either. Like, obviously the sport element is just fun. It's part of the story, but just starting it by just chatting.
Yep.
And being like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? And
Yep.
just having a real heart-to-heart is not a bad way to start a friendship.
It gave her the chance to, you know, learn who the real Damo was.
Yeah, man. Oh, that's awesome. Do you think that because you actually didn't have so many, you know, disability-focused groups, and you actually had quite the opposite experience, that you had very little exposure to people with a disability, you actually just, you know, in mainstream so much of your, I guess, developing stages, do you think that had a really positive impact on you, or do you think it shaped you in a really, in a unique way, in a good way? I mean, I think we talk a little bit about sometimes there's been a history where, and sometimes people with a disability are almost like divided into a separate box of society. For some people, they think of it that way.
I think I probably had the best upbringing that anybody could have asked for someone, you know, of my position. You know, I was never really put in that category. You know, obviously I wasn't completely naive. I knew I had a disability.
Yeah.
I knew I had my constraints. I knew there were lots of things I couldn't do, but we always made up for it in, you know, other ways. And as I said, you know, my friends at school were fantastic. They'd include me in everything, you know, even playing handball on the handball courts. You know, they'd make up rules to allow me to play. You know, it was great.
That's awesome.
And then that flowed on after school, you know, where I was sort of 19, 20, and, you know, made some new friends as well. And to me, I was just another one of the guys.
That's awesome. Mate, so you meet Tamara, you're very competitive, you're hanging out, doing sports, and then you guys sort of kick it off, and then now you got 3 kids at some point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing, and 2 of them are on the NDIS as well, right?
Yeah, one of them, my middle child, Blake, he's 13. He's autistic with ADHD and auditory processing disorder and a severe bug phobia to the point where he's probably agoraphobic, which means, you know, he doesn't like going outside. And Lucas, he'll be 10 in 3 weeks. He was, you know, our 3rd child that made us feel, you know, complete. When we had the first 2, we never really felt finished. We had Lucas, and then at the age of 6 months, he contracted pneumococcal meningitis. And that's probably the scariest time of my life. You know, he got very sick to the point where the hospital chaplain came in to basically give him his last rites. The doctors had no idea what to do.
Full on.
Yeah, but he's here now. He's
Great.
completely deaf in one ear. He wears a cochlear implant, and his good ear, quote unquote again, it's not so good anymore. It has dropped a bit, and he wears a hearing aid in that ear now as well.
Okay. And then your oldest daughter, she's a teenager.
To anyone that has a 15-year-old daughter out there, you know why I'm laughing.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll leave that one right alone.
Yeah, you're a busy household, mate.
Yep.
The 4 years. Oh, the 5 years, sorry.
Yeah, but nah, I love my daughter. Yeah, she's just that typical moody, hormonal teenage girl.
It happens.
That's smiling one minute and crying the next.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Fair enough. Oh, mate, anything else in your story you want to bring home to our listeners and share with our audience today?
Oh, there's probably lots, but I think there's some we can unpack on our journey.
Very excited.
You know, there's nightclub stories, there's drug issues I've had, there's alcohol issues, there's all sorts of things, but, you know, I think we can unpack that as we go.
Looking forward to, you know, your experience as well as how you've seen the disability space change over the years.
Thank you. Yeah,
It's going to be fun.
It's been fun, and now I'd like to know how you got involved in the whole NDIS process.
Yeah. So I guess even for me, a little bit before NDIS, my first exposure to disability was without me even knowing. My dad, I grew up in a pretty normal home. I'm one of 4 brothers. And yeah, mum and dad, working class family, dad just working, you know, a lot of labouring jobs just to look after the fams. Really had an awesome childhood, really. Loving, boisterous. 4 brothers, plenty of rough and tumbles.
So you guys were just living the dream.
Living the dream.
Yeah.
Poor mum, she wanted a girl, you know, and she got 4 boys. So, you know, she still loved us. She put up with us, a house full of guys.
Well, you're still here today, so clearly she did.
Exactly. So actually, my dad had a stroke when he was 18 years old. So I didn't even realise growing up that my dad had acquired a brain injury through a stroke.
You know different,
I knew different. Dad was a hard worker, still is, and was a hard worker. he provided for us kids. We had a normal upbringing. And now that he's getting older, I see the signs that, oh, yep, he's one of his hands is a little bit more tired than the other. And, oh, his memory's a bit average. And sometimes he slurs a little bit with his speech. But, you know, growing up, he kept really fit and active with his labouring type work. And I think really just he experienced a lot of difficulties growing up, but him and my mum and dad did such a great job of just providing for us boys and putting food on the table and making sure we always had a footy and you know, a PlayStation and fun things to do. And
so you sound like a pretty typical Aussie family.
And you know, we lived near a park, and yeah, we were out just running amok on the BMXs and having fun.
Yep.
Dad had dyslexia as well, which was, I guess, made an extra challenge for him. So when he was growing up, the school system really didn't know what to do with him.
Oh, back then dyslexia wasn't really a thing.
No, so he's struggling to read and write and you know, sort of push the back of the classroom, so, you know, wait your turn sort of attitude. And really, Dad didn't like being at school and left school pretty early, got into a bit of trouble. And it just really highlights to me even today how great the system is, in the sense that they're picking up this stuff so much earlier. Because for my dad, there wasn't the support at school for dyslexia, and then as he got older, it's just like it all just became really hard.
And he was just labelled the naughty kid because he couldn't stay focused on schoolwork.
Exactly right. He was labelled as just like a troublemaker, you know, and really he just needed a bit of extra support. That's probably all he needed. So yeah, Mum and Dad did a great job providing for us kids. Then my entire career before working in the NDIS space was in the mental health facility, drug and alcohol facility, with residents receiving treatment for long-term and mid-term care for drug addiction. Exciting, amazing, high-intensity work. Working with it was super rewarding, and I absolutely loved it. And seeing guys, you know, get sobriety or learn more about even drugs, just better education around, you know, usage and how to work through relapse and how to, you know, better accept themselves and receive treatment counselling, financial counselling. It was an awesome space to work in, and to this day I'm very, very thankful for it. It really shaped who I was. Interestingly enough, I reckon we had a number of guys that just slipped through the cracks. You know, post NDIS, we would have had guys in there who had schizophrenia, brain injuries, maybe even undiagnosed. And those people were, you know, sort of landing at our doorsteps, you know, metaphorically, that because, you know, there wasn't a system. They weren't being supported by an NDIS system. So a lot of those guys are now on the scheme and are actually getting regular support. Whereas if they weren't in our care, they had no support.
And they were just labelled as trouble.
That's right.
Because they were, you know, lashing out, or they were doing things, you know, making bad choices.
Yeah.
You know, getting, you know, I guess getting things where police might be involved, and because they themselves didn't understand what was wrong either.
Yeah. So I think, like, thinking about the NDIS, thinking about what people pick up in schools now, it's like all these, you know, getting onto things earlier and getting the support people need early. It's like, I think to myself, less and less people are going to potentially even need drug and alcohol treatment, or as intense high-risk treatment for people at such risk, if we continue to implement these things. And I know Bill Shorten's done some things to get people who are incarcerated who require the NDIS scheme. There's been a fast tracking of people in the system to get that support, so when they leave incarceration, supports are in place, which is fantastic work.
Yeah.
So about 3 years ago, fast forward to finish up that work, and then I see this ad for support coordination. I'm thinking, okay, well, what's this all about? And I worked as a support coordinator for a for-profit organisation, a big provider that was doing a lot of support work, big support work organisation, and I started off as support coordination. And that was basically like crash course in NDIS, and saw a lot of good, bad, and everything in between of you know, all the new supports rolling out, and I had a naivety to it, and not even, I think, aware even at first of, wow, there really is a staffing shortage here in the carer space. And I didn't realise it till I was in it trying to find supports, and I'm going, wow, I can't find a physio or an OT, I can't find a support worker. And even sometimes the quality of that for some of the people I was coordinating supports for was so varying.
As a ex-support coordinator that ran my own business, you're giving me cold sweats at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely brings back memories, and I wouldn't change it for the world because it taught me so much about the NDIS, the fact that I had to figure it out.
Yeah, same.
And yeah, it's an amazing job, and for those support coordinators out there, we're tipping our hats to you and cheering you on.
There's a reason why I'm no longer doing it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a 24/7 job that goes very much unnoticed as well.
It's a very challenging work, isn't it?
It
and
is.
I think there's a whole episode in there about what a good coordinator does and how we support coordinators and what participants should look for in a support coordinator.
Definitely.
And what questions they should be asking them straight off the bat to help them actually get a support coordinator. Because there's even and even just finding an independent support coordinator is a question that participants might only be asking. So
absolutely,
really enjoyed that work, and now I'm very happily here at FlexCare doing the operations and the business development of our allied health team.
And hey, if I hadn't run my own support coordination business, we wouldn't have met.
We wouldn't be here now. So
yes.
It's been fun, man. It's been fun, and that's probably been my journey so far in this space. I'm just trying to think if I've missed anything. We've been having a bit of a yarn now for about a little bit now, and mate, it's so good hearing, I think, a bit more of the nitty gritties of your story, and look forward to having our next couple of guests.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun, and as I said, as we go, I'm sure more things about my past will pop up in conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.